Hey, in this video, I'm going to be flying around in the Sinai map, just doing different actions to show how the frame rate is just under normal circumstances as I'm flying around. I thought it would be handy. I've seen a lot of people asking, well, how is the frame rate on the Sinai map doing this and doing that? So yeah, I thought I'd throw this map together and show how it is. Specifically, I'll be doing some high altitude flying, takeoffs, landings, doing some air-to-air combat, and some strike missions. So hopefully this is helpful and kind of demonstrates what you can expect when flying on Sinai. Typically I get 90 frames per second at high altitude. When I get lower into mid altitudes, I get around 55 to 75, and down low over urban areas it gets down to around 45 frames per second. Hope you enjoy. So the first thing I wanted to do is go over my settings, which I threw up here for you to have a look at. I won't run through them all. Of note, I set textures to medium because I have some issues with stuttering. I think it's related to the Varjo headset and dynamic foveated rendering. Here you could see that we have 24 players on the server that I'm going to be hopping onto, and this is the new Sinai map. So that's the airbase I'm going to be going for. You could see there's a fair number of players out there flying around doing their thing. Some helicopters, some fighters, lots of AI. So it's a busy place, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to show how my frames are. So on the ground here, as you can see, we're getting around 60 frames, 65 frames per second as I taxi out to the active runway. There's not a whole lot around here to impact the frame rate, so that's why you're going to see a pretty decent frame rate.
LA race traffic, Psycho 11 taking runway 16 right.
Check both ways, looking good. Let's hop on this runway and get things rolling. Throttles up, and you can see we're getting around 75 frames per second as we're rolling. Again, there's really nothing out there other than desert. And gets up to over 80 frames per second. All right, start pulling back, and let's get wheels up, flaps up.
LA reach traffic, Psycho 11 cleared, runway 16 right.
So as you can see, we're getting some pretty good frame rates right now as we climb up. There's, again, not a lot to impact it, just desert and sky. So I typically get upwards of 90 frames per second. Now the clouds are on ultra, as you saw from the previous screen that I put up. I do notice an impact when I enable the FLIR and point it, let's say, over towards the target that I'm heading towards. So we're up between 85 and over 90 frames per second as we're up here. And once we get on course, we'll jump over to when I'm closer, and you'll start seeing some built-up areas. All right, here we are. Well, we went from 80 to 90 down to around 45 to 50 frames per second, and that typically happens anytime you have those built-up areas, like you can see down there. Also, I have the FLIR pointed at my target area, and that tends to pull frames down. And you notice in the frames per second jump up when I go eyes down, when I look down into the cockpit, or when I move my whole head down there. It's part of the dynamic foveated rendering that really helps pick up the frame rate. Still not too bad. You know, we're upper 40s or 50 frames per second. And there's just not a whole lot of built-up areas, but I think this is going to be normal. When you are close to any built-up areas, the urban areas, it's just going to start to hit your frames per second. So I dropped a JDAM towards the target, and I rolled off, popped some flares as a precaution. We'll start picking out some other targets over there. Now there was an A-10 that was coming in, so I didn't want to go in and blast all the targets while he chugs along and finally gets there. So I think I picked out one more target that was sitting over there, and then headed off afterwards. There we go.
Shack on that SA-11 east of waypoint 19.
We'll pick out our targets from range, from a distance, while we orbit around, and then once I have something identified, head on in. Grab that one last target out there way off in the corner. There it is. Target designates, and that sticks it to the JDAM coordinates. Roll in and release. Roll off target. Pop some flares. The cells are good. See what else is down there. I think it's pretty much a done deal here. All right, let's move on. All right, let's do some air-to-air combat. See how the frames measure up.
Altitude. Altitude.
So we got 2 enemy aircrafts approaching the area, so it's time to go and switch roles from air to ground to air to air. Drop the tank because it's just going to slow me down. Kick in the afterburners, it's got some speed, and let's start to climb. This guy is up a little bit higher than me. I mean, the missile was heading towards him. Maybe he just manages to defeat it. So once I see that it missed, I roll in for another attack. It's well within the no escape range, and a good splash. And F-14. Alright, I know he had a buddy, so I roll down, dive for the deck,
Altitude.
and try to get out of there.
Altitude.
Because I lost sight of his buddy. Plus I've got enemy SAMs in the area that are wanting to shoot me down. Alright, I'm rocketing along nice and fast. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull up and do 180 degrees right around and roll inverted. Head back at him. Gets me some altitude, trades off that speed, and gets me lined up on him. There it is. Turn off the jammer since it degrades my radar performance. Taking a while to get a lock on this guy. I've got it in the helmet sight mode. To track while scan. There it is. And Fox 3. Oh, looks like there's 2 of them up there. Alright, let's see how that first missile does. That's a good hit. There we go. Gonna get his buddy with a Sidewinder. And Fox 2. Another kill, look at that. Enemy F4 shot down. So as you can see, the frames per second stick around, 45 to 55 frames per second. Again, it's because of all that built up urban areas around here. The ultra clouds probably have a bit of an impact on it, so I could always step that down and get some better performance. Probably turn off some of the MSAA as well. Drop 4 times down
traffic. Second 1-1 inbound runway 02 left. Short final.
All right, let's see how it looks as we come in for a landing. So again, 45 to 50 frames per second is typical. Coming in for the landing. There's buildings and structures around. Another player out there, an F-16 sitting on next to the runway. Gonna wait for me to land before he taxis out, which was really nice of him. That down to 35 frames per second. Yeah, it's tough on the system. I mean, this is a really, this is like a top-end system, and it still struggles with all those settings maxed out, plus with the Varjo base running at maximum pixel density on the headset. That really hammers away. So I could probably squeeze more frames per second by adjusting some of these settings. But once we're rolling, like I said, around 45, 50 frames per second. It's typical. He's over there. Let's turn right. Get off the runway.
Crosshair traffic, second 1-1 cleared, runway 02 left. Thanks for holding.
And I thanked him for holding. All right, so here's another one. Jumped on later, 30 users on it, 30 people flying. This is right around Cairo. So you want to see hammering the computer's processor and video. This is it. That place is huge. Lots of
Absolutely,
buildings.
traffic, second 11 taking runway 20 right.
So yeah, rolling off the runway here. We're not too far away from Cairo. Another player up in the sky just ahead of me. This runway is pretty bumpy. All right, there we go. Wheels up, flaps up.
Absolutely, traffic, second 11 prepared runway 20 right.
Roosevelt traffic group 13, watching gap 1.
All right, here we are. Climbed up to, what, 13,000 feet. Again, clouds at ultra. We're not too far from Cairo yet. 37 miles. Let's see once I turn on the arm and get some targets going up there, that'll we'll start getting some action rolling. Now, there already were a bunch of seed missions ahead of me, so there's not a whole lot of enemy radars up, but I'll wind up finding a couple in and around the area. Main idea here is let's see how these frames hold up as we get closer to a massive urban area that is Cairo. Yeah, once we get close enough, when the preload starts to hit, you'll start seeing some frames dropping down there. It's a AAA radar. I never know which specific type it is. There's 3 different variants, different codes. So I'll usually just do a handoff for those ones. There we go. Frame rate's creeping down. We're down to 40 to 45. And here you can see lots of urban area with the missile flying down. Oh, we got that guy. There's the Cairo airport. Stuff's getting beat up pretty good. Let's probably just leave it for the cast. There's the pyramid over there, Great Pyramids of Egypt. Something smoldering on top of the one pyramid. That's always funny. So here we are. We're about 5,700 feet, and flying over Cairo. We're down to around 35, 38 frames per second. It's pretty hard. There's a Cairo West airport just up ahead. I'm going to go and work some of the emitters over there. There's pyramids over there. So it's a really cool map. I really like it. Even, you know, I gotta credit these guys for putting this amount of buildings in and still being able to get some decent performance. You know, granted, when you get down really low, it's pretty harsh on your frame rate. But you know, I think as the graphics engine gets updated, we're going to see some much better performance. So we'll offset left here. See how that harm does. There we go. I'm never a real big fan of the handoff modes. They always seem to miss or hit the ground in front of the target. Let's try it again.
Altitude. Altitude.
Flight. Engage air defenses.
Like I said, that's the Cairo West airport. We got Sam coming up at us. Just missed us. So that's it for my harms. I just have air-to-air left, so fly around a bit. Get some low passes.
Great work. We have captured another base. You can now rearm there.
And see how this system holds up with a lot of players, a lot of AI moving all over the map in and around Cairo. It's a majorly built up area. So you got some enemy down near the Great Pyramids. That's one of the side missions. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Go and blast those guys. You get up a bit higher, you're not facing down into the urban area, you get some decent frames, but once you get down lower, it gets bogged down. Heavy aircraft over there. Fox 3 on that guy. He's 21 down, right on. Yeah, let's get down below the clouds here and start doing some sightseeing maybe. Do a low pass down over the city there. And that's the Cairo airport, getting hammered pretty good. .37 frames per second. Let's see what happens here.
Altitude. Altitude.
I mean, look at that. Look how many buildings it has to draw here. It's insane. They did a great job with the detail, like I said. I love it. But, 35 frames for all of this stuff is not bad at all. I think it drops down to like 20, 25 occasionally. It gets a bit of a dip, but let's fly past the pyramids here. And there's the Sphinx out there, down there. And the enemy sitting on the other side of that pyramid. Come around when there is no buildings, we get up to mid-60s. As we come back around, FPS starts to pretty bad. 30 frames per second. There's just so much to draw. But again, looks nice, lots of fun. Bring the jet down a little bit lower. Fly over the, I guess this is the Nile. Cool buildings. So yeah, when you get down here and you're cruising along, 30 frames per second, typical. I'd say this is about the worst it's going to get. Oh, there's a stadium over there. That's kind of neat. We got a helicopter creeping down there.
Groovy 1-3 to Swiss Links, you got banded on your 6.
Yeah, I don't know that, and if you can support, that would be good.
Oh, a bit far out.
Oh, there we go.
But you might want to deal with it.